everybody, welcome back to Original versus Remake with me, John, and Dennis. And today we actually have our first big triple threat match here. It's going to be the Mystery of the Wax Museum from 1933 versus House of Wax from 1953 versus House of Wax from 2005. And before we get into all that, we want to address one thing real quick. We will put a poll out for every single one of our shows, even if me and Dennis pick the winner. The only time we'll actually let you guys pick the winner is if we have like a draw, but we'll still always put a poll out. And in this case, we did for the Stepfather, and the original, thank God, still won, but it was close there for a while.
Yeah, I know that halfway through the week, you actually sent me a snapshot of the poll, and it was like 51 to 48 or 49 or something like that. And I was like, all right, I guess we didn't give the remake enough credit, but thankfully, cooler heads prevailed. The original did take the win.
Yeah, thank God. You know what? I really believe that the problem is that not enough people actually have seen the original Stepfather, and a lot of people are aware of the remake when it came out in 09. So, that's closer, more recent. I guess maybe they didn't even realize it's a remake, which is a shame.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that happens a lot, honestly. I'm sure there's a lot of people who
Happen to
probably
us
don't
with
even.
this.
Yeah, I was gonna say they don't even know House of Wax is a remake.
Mm.
And really it's a remake of a remake. So I mean there's a lot to unfold here. So I think that's the fun part of doing this series is sometimes even we find out, oh crap, there is another one that we didn't know.
Yeah, exactly. Like for me, I had only known of the 1953 one and the 2005 one, but I had no idea of Mystery of the Wax Museum until actually a comment under our first poll. So
Yeah, and that was the first that I learned. And honestly, I didn't even know there was a 1953 one. I was one of those people who only knew House of Wax as the '05. Thank God I was given the information because we'll dive into it, but those originals were great too.
yeah, I truly love the originals. I mean, we'll see who's the winner at the very end of this show. So let's just dive right in. We'll start with the 1933 original done by Warner Brothers, which me and Dennis, we bought this DVD because you couldn't stream this anywhere, and it wasn't even on YouTube, which is so strange for an old film like this. So we we bought the DVD. Dennis has it right there. We bought it from Amazon, and you want to call Amazon out on this one?
Yeah, we probably should because we did a lot of research to try and find it. It was only like $9, and when we went to buy it, I was like, "Oh, John, I found it. I found it on Amazon. It's $9. We should get it." And it said, "Hurry, only one in stock." And it's got a library sticker on it. It's got the
It's on the
little,
disc too.
yeah, the code on the back. So, gotta find out what happened here because we are in possession of some library's DVD. Thank you, Amazon, for allowing that to happen.
Yeah, very strange. I know they have private sellers, but if anyone's looking for that DVD, we did not steal it. And there is a Blu-ray out there. I actually did some research on the physical media for this one, so I'll give you a quick rundown of this. This was shot in two-tone Technicolor, which is very original for the time. They make it look like it's shot in full color, which we saw it. It was kind of like a pinkish bluish, but apparently it's more closer to two other colors, but still to make it look more natural. And that's what's apparently on the Blu-ray release, which eventually I want to grab. But we watched it on this DVD, and I thought it actually looked beautiful.
Yeah, I was very surprised. I was going in expecting, the fact that we couldn't find it anywhere, that it was only on DVD, that it was stolen from a library somewhere, someone bootleg sold it to us. I was not expecting it to look great, but it really, I mean, listen, it's not going to win anything, any awards for Best Picture, but being that it's 1933, I actually looked it up to see like how deep into color movies they even were at this point in history and everything. And from what I found, they were only like 5 years into using color. I think like 1927 was the date that I found that color was really being used in movies. So it looks great considering it's so early on in the color part of making film.
Yeah, color and even the audio wise too. It's pretty early on, and like when they just started using sound, which I think really is a dead giveaway for the movie of the time. Because of the way that the main character is talking in this film, which the plot of this movie is very similar to the 53, which is that a gentleman, a very nice scholar who loves to do wax sculptures, loves his museum, his wax museum. He has a partner, but critics appreciate his art. But unfortunately, his business partner only wants to make a profit on this, and he's not seeing the profit. So he's like, okay, well, come on, buddy, let's just scam him out of the insurance. And then a fight ensues. And then, fortunately, this we think possibly leaves one of them dead, but not the guy who was just trying to scam out of the money. And then that's what leads to everything that happens throughout the rest of the film.
Yeah, which I think is really interesting because if you break down like the whole, like all of the underlying stories, there's getting involved with sketchy loan sharks and insurance fraud. There's, the guy who, the biggest one to me is their whole point is no one's paying to come to this museum because the guy does just beautiful works of history, and he says people like the disgusting and macabre. They want to see like dead bodies and people getting beheaded, and I think that honestly, the fact that that's in 1933 and we still to this day, I mean, one of the most lucrative forms of media is true crime, which is just all about talking about horrific things that happen in real life. So that carries to today. And then you have the guy who is an artist who, in that fight and fire, he loses his ability to do his work. Like he can't sculpt anymore. And he kind of loses his mind because that's all he ever wanted to do. So I think all those storylines, the fact that this is 1933 and we're talking nearly 100 years later, I mean, like those storylines still apply to this day. So they really knew what they were doing back then.
Yeah, which is and another thing that just kind of occurred to me while you're talking about it, it's also like how people are infatuated with horror as well. Like these are horror movies, but still, I always think about this. Like I still believe that the most popular genre is horror. I like horror movies still do incredible in theaters, and to think like this guy who loves like those like amazing sculptures that are almost photo accurate, like it almost looks exactly like the person, but only certain critics appreciate that. It's almost like a great artist who comes along and makes a great movie and like it does terrible at the box office, and then this person who makes like a shitty horror movie, it blows up, and it's like that's just what the people want, but it's not what I want to do.
Yeah, and I think that you're right, and that's the crazy thing that carries over into today. I mean,
Hmm.
think about it. There's so many good people who they'll make artistic pieces, like movies, and they flop. But then the guy makes Terrifier 1, 2, and 3, and it's all you hear about on the internet for months. So I think that carries over, and I mean, listen, it's still a 30s movie, and I think the biggest thing that I wanted to discuss with you is the dialogue in this film.
Oh my god, yes. There's an entire storyline around a newspaper that, like they cut for the 1953 one, thank God. But this movie moves along. It's what, 77 minutes, I think? And so it's going fast. So they're hitting plot point after plot point, but it's in that 1930s dialogue that we see made fun of nowadays, but they're genuinely speaking like this, and it's ridiculous.
Experiments with scotch and soda again, huh?
Now, where'd you get the news item? From a little bird?
Yeah. Have a pleasant vacation?
Yeah, the way that I describe it is there weren't acting coaches. There was no acting wasn't viewed as an art yet, so they were just given lines, and every actor was like, "Okay, I have lines I have to get through. Let's just get through this." Because the way they talk, I mean, the main point of the main character, the woman who's working for the newspaper, is that she hasn't had a good story lately, and she's getting fired. She literally argues with the editor of the paper, gets fired, and then gets rehired in 2 minutes, all
Hmm.
in this really quick shot in an office where they're just, no, you're fired. No, I can't be fired. No, you're really, no, but I'm really gonna fire. And it's that fast. And then she's like, oh, but I'll find a really good story. See you later. Oh, and the guy's like, oh, I can't be mad at you. And she walks out the door. And I was like, does she still work here or not? Like, I was so confused.
Yeah, it's very much that's exactly what it is we have to kind of get through like what the story is. Like it's on paper like this, but we only have this amount of time to do it. And you said it's it's great. I think it was in the 53 one, which I guess film just was so expensive even in 1933, but in the 53 one there's an intermission.
Yeah, which is insane to me. Because it's not that much longer, but the 33 one, like you said, is only 77 minutes. So they do blow through it. And listen, again, it's a 30s film. There's some choppy editing.
Hmm.
There are actually a lot of points that I don't know, maybe if it was my TV or if you felt it, but a lot of scenes that were just completely silent for like 30 seconds to a minute.
Yeah, that was just like you could hear like the film in the background still, like kind of moving along. Yeah, but that's just of the time. They didn't lay any score over it. Like the audio is just not great. It's very much. It's also a DVD, so I'm sure they cleaned it up for the Blu-ray. So this is like like we kind of put this out there, so it's out there. They didn't really put much effort because like yeah, there's that choppy edits where like clearly they lost some of the film. But I still thought it was cool to see like New Year's 1933 and like see what New York was like in the 30s and how they celebrate New Year's. And because it looks like color, it's like it's fascinating. It's almost like a time capsule kind of thing.
Yeah, there was a lot of really cool stuff. I thought that also for a 30s film, again, we're so early in film. I thought the prosthetic on the guy's face, I
Yes.
thought that looked really, really good.
That did look really good. I mean, it's silly how the girl has to hit her in him in the face for it to work, and it's clearly like your direction is we have to have this fall off, so make sure you hit it hard enough and hit it right here and here and here because it looks like when somebody's hitting somebody, she's reaching up. It's like she would hit him in the chest and push him first, right?
Yeah, yeah, so that part, but again, like for a 30s film, I that was the part I was most blown away by, I think, was what the prosthetics looked like because they really looked like, and I don't mean the prosthetic of his face that breaks because that's cut so fast you can't tell it, but I'm talking about his like disfigured face. That
Yeah.
part for a 30s film, I thought it looked really, really good.
I thought his look was the scariest of all the looks, actually. And one thing that's fascinating, because like the whole thing is the whole mystery of the movie is these bodies are getting stolen from the morgue. We don't know where they're going. They kind of suspect this guy a little bit because of certain other things that are seen throughout the film. Like they explore more in the 50s one about the earlobes and stuff like that. That kind of gives it away that there's something strange going on here. But no one really suspects him because he's handicapped. But then, of course, he gets out of the chair.
Yeah, big shock twist there. I think if we're jumping into the 53 one, I
Yeah,
think
just
they did.
because they're just the 53 one, I think when we talk original versus remake, this is literally a remake of the original, just cutting out the whole newspaper storyline.
Yes, and that's why when you're talking about the earrings and everything, that's in the 53 one. I don't remember, was that in the 33 one too, that they're talking about the earlobes?
No, but there's something like where he's like the one girl's like so sure of it. I don't remember if it was because of the earlobes or not. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there was like a similar reason where she was like this has to be it because it's like too realistic looking because essentially what he's doing is dumping their dead corpses and covering them in wax. So, that's why they look so realistic. But this wasn't what he was doing before. It's just because now he's lost his mind.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is, and that's the part I didn't remember was in this one and the 53 one, the plot line is that he can't do it anymore, but he wants to still. So basically, he's using these bodies because he knows people can't sculpt as good as he can. So
No.
it's easier to dunk a body in the wax and have someone just form the wax around the pre-existing features so he can still make his. I mean, what's the Joan of Arc is the big one he's huge on, and
Marie
Marie Antoinette.
Antoinette. Yeah.
Yeah, those are the two that like drive his passion or psychosis. I don't know which one you want to call it.
He's like, I gotta have him. I gotta like that. Those have to be the ones I have. And like when he finds a woman that looks like it, he becomes obsessed with them. Also, I mean, the costume that he wears when he goes stealing from the morgue is just, I mean, in both versions, I laughed a little bit. I got to be honest, watching him move around with the hat and everything.
Yeah, you know what? I got like real Phantom of the Opera vibes from it, but
I
I
was thinking
agree.
7 in WCW vibes. I don't know if you got. I mean, only me and you and 4 other people will remember that, but still.
That's better than Phantom of the Opera. I like that one more. Dude, the trench coat, the big round hat, like it was I don't know, it was like Undertaker light. He was trying to
Yeah.
be creepy, but then the way he's like hunched and like sliding
And
through
this is where there
everything.
was like no sound, right? Like so you could only hear a little bit, so it's like you're just watching him kind of glide.
Yeah, yeah, that dude, and that's the thing. I think it was anytime, especially in the 31, and the 33 one, anytime he was sneaking around in that silly costume, it was just dead silent. There was no noise, there wasn't footsteps, there were no keys jingling, there was no noise. And there were a couple times where I had to like check. I was like, "Oh man, did the volume on my TV break?" Like I genuinely thought something was wrong. And then someone would walk in the room. I was like, "Oh no, they just purposely made this completely silent."
Yeah, which is, I mean, honestly, it's a cool decision for the time. And these again, they're using the exact, almost if they're not the same sets, they rebuilt the sets to look exactly the same when they're moving around in these areas. Because like even like the cobblestone streets and everything, which look awesome, are directly from that.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. I actually tried to look up to see if it was shot. I did a little bit of digging to see if it was the same exact set. I couldn't find anything that confirmed that. I found some other interesting stuff about the 53 one, so if you want to go there, but before we do, I do just want to say I think the 1933 one, it's a product of its time. So you have to go in understanding choppy edits, the acting isn't superb, but in terms of originality, the concept, and how everything was pulled off, I think the 33 one is really, really good.
Yeah, I think it's actually very ahead of its time. And I can see why 20 years later they'd want to remake it because they probably saw like this and has the bones of a great movie in here. It's just like there's some silly stuff in there. Like one thing I texted you, I was like, the last line of the movie when the editor and her like they agree to get married and she's not going to work there anymore, and like they're going to settle down. Essentially, it's going to make her a housewife. I'm like, they wrapped that up so fast and cut the credits. I'm like, my God.
Yeah, that was a lot of it, and thank God that was one of the things that I found in my research. So the biggest issue for me in the 1933 one was that the plot was being driven so quickly by a random newspaper. Well, basically, the whole reason that the wax museum gets caught in this whole crime thing is because she's about to lose her job at the newspaper. But like in the middle of that, she meets this other guy literally twice, and in those two times that they meet, they decide they fell in love, they're going to get married, she's going to quit her job and everything like that. So that whole plot line didn't work very well, and that was something that everything I read people were very happy with. 1953 took that and was like, okay, that's the part that didn't work, everything else was great, let's streamline this and make it a cohesive film.
Yeah, because it's longer while cutting that out. And, they add more of a mystery about like what's going on. Like I think if you just watch the 53 one and ignore the 33 one, like you might go into this and like the mystery might be a little bit better because you get the same exact outcomes as the 33 version. It's just this time also you put a world-class actor in Vincent Price in the center of it.
Yeah, and I think that it makes a lot more sense, the suspicion and that it's detectives and like the whole thing makes so much more sense because police are investigating him. There's a lot more like investigation into the insurance fraud in the beginning. It's more of like a crime movie where the other one was more like a newspaper art, like it was driven by a character that was too far disconnected, I think. And this one, all the characters make sense. All the intrigue into the house, into Vincent Price's character, and all of the suspicion makes sense. They're not forced into the film just to make it move along.
Yep, exactly. Like the suspicion is built up, the mystery is built up, and then the big reveal this time when he gets out of the chair, I think works even better than it does in in the 1933 one.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. Um, it's so clever, I think, because you have him, and I think this is a good one to go in blind too, because you never expect the ending the way that it ends. You never expect to find out that Vincent Price, this, cripple man in a wheelchair who claims he can't bear weight and his hands are all burnt, but his face is still perfect. You never expect him to actually be the creepy Phantom of the Opera man lurking around.
No, and I do love the reveal. And kind of in my mind, I kind of like the effects in the 1933 one a little bit more, like the post effects where you can see it, than this one. Even though I think as they progress, they're trying to make it look more realistic, like a burn victim. Well, not in the third one. We'll get to that. But in the first, I think they were trying to go for a more realistic approach. So I think that that's kind of hinders it. Sometimes I like the more over the top cinematic looking thing, even if it looks a little bit like we kind of talked about with Dawn of the Dead. Like I told you I like that. It looks fake, but I kind of like that.
Yeah, and I was opposite side of the fence on Dawn of the Dead. I liked how streamlined everything was in the new film, but in this, I will agree. I do like the effect of the burn and the creepy face in the original. The Vincent Price one I felt was he was like purpley gray colored. It looked more like stitches or something on him. It didn't look like he was burnt, and the effect was significantly less. I felt like in the 1933 one, his whole face was
Yeah.
distorted. In this one, Vincent Price had like one big burn here and like maybe one on his cheek. It was much more minimalistic, and I don't think it was as effective in terms of like the fear factor.
I agree. I completely agree. I do love one thing I want to point. I wonder if this was taken from this because it seems like a Tim Burton thing to do. But when the Jack Nicholson falls into the acid in Batman '89, do you think that was taken from this? Because the hand shot looks exactly like the hand shot like in these movies.
It could be. I could see that being inspiration for this because that was a really cool shot. I mean, and you're right. Now that you think about it, it is not a shot for shot thing, but it's pretty close.
Yeah, I feel like Tim Burton would be the kind of guy because he was probably a kid around this time, or at least not too long after Born. And I would imagine he probably was a big fan because he loves horror of Vincent Price and saw House of Wax and probably like I got to take that from that.
Yeah, I could see that for sure.
And both are Warner Brothers. I just realized that Batman's Warner Brothers too.
There you go. So he was allowed to use it too. I think That's a good point. I could see that, and this does feel like something that would be right up Tim Burton's alley too, because it's not necessarily a horror movie in like the traditional, like it's not really a slasher film. It's not really super over the top jump scare film. It's more just like an unsettling movie. Like the what's happening is horrific, but you don't sit there terrified the whole time, you know?
No, and actually, one thing we got to bring up, and I almost completely forgot, and people will get mad if we don't bring it up, is that this was the first color 3D movie, the 1953 one, and you could tell that, like, even though I was reading that they were purposely trying to make the effects subtle, there's one scene in the middle where it's clear, like, we're going to be using this to just for the 3D effects, and that's why it was put in here.
And you're talking about the paddleball guy?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So I didn't actually know that this was shot in 3D because they really don't do anything with it until that. And when I looked it up, there were a lot of articles that said the reason the effects weren't used so much is because the director was blind in one eye. Did you know that?
Yeah, and he couldn't you see the effects anyway, so he wanted to just
Yeah.
make a mystery movie.
Yeah, so then but they had to make it 3D, so that's why he just was like, "Ah, this guy's gonna do paddleball. Yeah, like whatever, who cares?" And that was very clearly because it was like a minute straight that he's hitting this ball straight at the screen. So a lot of people said though that they think because he was blind to an eye, couldn't see the effects and didn't care to do them, that helped the film be better because he was just focused on making a good movie.
Yeah, because I imagine other 3D movies of the time probably were just like focusing on the 3D effects, but he probably had one note where they're like, you got to put something like this in, like in there, because it just feels also very out of place throughout, because it's pretty long.
Yeah, it is. It increases, from the first one, which flies by. This is a longer. Now, that's not an insult by any means. It's not
No,
longer in the sense you
no, I
feel
like that.
like it's a chore, but I think it does move at a good pace, but it definitely is a lot longer movie.
Is this what sold things at the time? Like, did you walk down the streets of New York in the 50s and there was a guy doing paddleball outside? Like, was this a normal thing? Like, that's was like, oh man, this place seems cool.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. Because you know what's funny? I also wanted to bring up because you said it was cool to see New York in the 30s. I thought that scene like the old fire wagons and police wagons and stuff pull up, like that was really cool too. So I wonder, like that seemed really accurate for the time.
Yeah, it
Is the
probably
paddleball
was.
guy accurate too?
I don't know. I don't know what people like, going to the theater, like, how a young person like in the 50s is thinking, oh, yeah, that reminds me of like Bill. That's what Bill does for a living. He promotes like, the National History Museum or something. I don't know. Like, that's might be what they do.
Yeah, I mean, I
You
don't
know,
know.
then again,
That's
like
tough.
going to a House of Wax, like a museum like this it's of the time anyway.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I mean, you have to think it's almost like nowadays, I feel like it'd be like going to Ripley's Believe It or Not. So you could see that being something they do, having some sort of street performer, and it is the 50s, so maybe street performing was just being good at that.
Is there any other notes you have on this one?
Yeah, I mean, one, the intermission part. It's like it's literally only an hour and like 40 minutes or something, and there's an intermission.
Yeah, again, this must just have been something on the time, like when you go to the theater. Like I mean, I've heard stories from Steven Spielberg and people like they would do double features and stuff, or maybe triple features. So maybe that's just like kind of it. Like you spent the day at the theater and they had just built-in intermissions. I'm not sure. It has to be at the time too.
And yeah, well, my last point, and this is just something that bothered me and I didn't understand. Like the whole movie was so good. And then the ending, when the couple are in the detective's office. First of all, actually, one point, one of the detectives literally, he is a detective. And at one point he says, I'm not good with names or faces.
What are you good with?
That's a detective who confesses that. And that same detective at the end, the woman says something because she was laid out nude in the wax thing and he put his jacket on her. So the woman says, "Thank you for using my jacket." And he said, "Oh, I saw that you weren't covered and I didn't want you to catch a cold." And then that detective lets out the most ridiculous sneeze in the background. And then everyone looks at him and they just go, "Bless you." And then they walk out of the room and the movie ends. What was the sneeze for?
I don't, I don't know. That's a good point. Was it hinting at something? I didn't even think about it.
Dude, it felt so out of place that I was like, all right, now I don't know what to think anymore.
I don't know. Like, is he somebody else? Maybe that's what we're getting hinted. I don't know. Did Vincent Price sneeze a lot? I don't know.
It was so bizarre, but I think overall, the 53 one again, great film. It took all of the best aspects of the 1933 one, streamlined it into a really modern, interesting movie without any of the real complaints of the first, for sure.
Yeah, I completely agree. And this being a Warner Brothers property, they had to remake it. But just on my closing thoughts right now, just on the 53 one, I would say it's a better version of the 33 one. And as far as we're 2/3 in, this is my favorite one. Just a very well done movie. And I love Vincent Price. I'm a big fan of his, so it's always fun to see him. He's got that voice.
100%. And when I actually told my mom, I was like, "Oh, me and John are doing this. We're watching House of Wax." She actually, Vincent Price. Oh my God! So he's obviously a beloved actor.
Yes, and he very much is. Him and Christopher Lee are like that generation's like horror icons. Warner Brothers, being this their intellectual property, decided, you know what? Why don't we remake this bad boy? And I think remake, we were talking, is a very loose word, because I was thinking while I'm watching this, they should have just called this the House of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, in my opinion.
I am glad you said it because that's the first thing I felt was, you know what this is? 2 years prior, Texas Chainsaw was remade. Warner Brothers was like, that did pretty good. Let's try something we have. And they had House of Wax. So they just slapped Texas Chainsaw all over this bad boy.
Right? I mean, it's literally it's a small town or everything, and just only a few people occupy it, except the whole town has been turned into wax, and yet nobody's asked any questions this whole time where all these people went. But this one's directed by this is a man, John Calais Sarah. I'm definitely butchered his name. But this gentleman not only directed this movie, he also directed Orphan, The Shallows, made a bunch of Liam Neeson movies that actually one I like: Nonstop, Run All Night, Unknown, The Commuter, couple of Dwayne The Rock Johnson movies, Jungle Cruise, Black Adam, and also last year's Carry On.
Wow. All right. So he's actually gone. Is all right. So he got his, in my opinion, bad one out of the way early.
Yeah, exactly. I think this was his first directed film, but it's written by Chad Hayes and Carrie Hayes. Those two gentlemen are twins.
Oh,
So this movie makes a lot more sense now, seeing as how it has two sets of twins in it.
yeah, I'd have to agree. My biggest issue with this is that we talked about the original, and the concept was great. There was a man who lost the ability to do what he loved, lost his mind, resorted to these psychotic things to bring his dream back to life. This film takes every single cliche you can find. They take an interstate being built, ruining a small town. They take good twin versus evil twin. They take, a parent who abandons their children, Siamese twin, or yeah, conjoined twins. If you think of any horror, any like origin story for a serial killer in horror, it is just casually mentioned in one sentence in this film.
Very much so. It's such a 2000s horror movie through and through, and it's set up. Group of teenagers are going to a football game. First of all, I'm like a quarter of the way through this movie. Are they in high school or in college? I'm pretty sure they're in high school, but none of them even look close to high school age. I mean, the two of them that are twins, the brother is 34 years old. And the one kid, like, he was a kid in high school in the 90s in Cousin Skeeter, and that was like 8 years before this.
Yeah, and can we also talk about the fact college or high school, they're driving a brand new Escalade pickup truck and a completely restored I think it was a Challenger muscle car, and like restored, not rusted, beat up, everything brand new. So these kids are in high school driving 80, 90, $100,000 cars to a football game. Also, where the hell is this football game that they decided they were just going to turn a camp in the middle of the woods?
I know. Exactly. They were just gonna stop in the. I don't know. Is this Texas? I don't know where the hell they're going. It blows my mind. But all of them getting together, and it's just like so 2000s, like the haircuts. I mean, they got the guy from, I always forget what show he's on, but he's also actually in the Friday the 13th remake from '09. But he's most known for that. I don't remember what the hell it's called, but
Supernatural, I think is it.
that's it. Supernatural show I've never watched, but he's just never sold me on an actor. Then of course you bring in a world class actor at the time in Paris Hilton.
Oh, she carried this film too, by the way.
But you know what? She fits in because nobody is doing any great acting in this movie.
No, it's horrible. And then the storyline too, dude. I mean, you go from the really original plot of House of Wax and Mystery of the Wax Museum to this, which is just like Siamese twins, surgery to remove them goes horribly wrong, and they're psychopaths now who for some reason are obsessed with making people out of wax. Makes
Yeah.
no sense. I don't understand it, and it doesn't. I just can't follow it.
There's like no logic in this at all because First of all, I mean, just as we keep going through it, really cool concept of what the House of Wax actually is, because the whole thing is made out of wax. I actually kind of like that. Thought it looked really cool. I obviously hate the brown filter that they put over this, but I actually like how it looks inside the House of Wax. And then when it burns down, which I assume is an homage to the first two, because the original House of Wax burned down. But of course, this one's going completely down because everything's fucking wax. But actually, pretty cool. I thought that stuff was all very nice. It's just everything is so colored, and then the big reveal of like, when because obviously we're going to get the reveal like in the first two of the guy who's wearing the mask. In this case, it's like literally like Leatherface, because he's a silent killer. His name's Vincent. The same actor who plays Bo is also the one who plays Vincent, but obviously you can't really tell. Vincent though gets this like really cool, like he can be a little charming at times, and then he falls into like just bad acting.
Yeah, it's not so much of this is the only way I can describe it is corny. So
Yeah.
much of it is just corny 2000s horror. It's very on the nose with everything it's doing. They borrowed a lot of actors too for the '09 Friday 13th, because you notice the one brother too, the third brother, big reveal.
Oh my
I'm pretty
god.
sure
Yeah,
he's also in it.
yeah, I think you're right. Oh my god, that's such a stupid twist ending. It's no, and for no point. No, nobody even cared to have that.
No, it was everything. And then, dude, the one line with the brother and sister where they're arguing, and he's like, "Don't you know you're the good twin? I'm the evil twin." It's so like, come on, dude. Like, it was so. Again, the best word for this movie, start to finish, is corny. It is
Well,
the most corny horror movie ever.
I thought that was ridiculous too. But there was also the line that when she's trying to like reason with Vincent, and like she put it together when she saw the high chairs, that like, oh, Bo's the one doing the manipulating, and he's actually the crazy one, not Vincent. He's just manipulating Vincent, and he's trying to tell, oh, the Bo's the bad one. I'm like, you put all that together, and you're so calm while this place is on fire that you're trying to reason with this killer right now who doesn't speak. Like, good job. I'm glad that you're somehow an amazing psychiatrist just right now.
Yeah, so you know what oh my God, in that fight scene too, you know what drove me insane? This is the high point of corniness. The brother and Vincent are fighting on the bed. Vincent's on top of him with the knife, and he says, "Come here, help, help." And his sister walks in the door, looks at the situation, looks at her brother pinned on the bed with the knife being pushed into his face, and just says, "I'm here." Nothing. Just wanted to show you what was going on.
Nothing. Get out. Like, you know what? You know what? You've already served your purpose, and I realized I made a huge mistake.
Like, I'm here. Okay, maybe help me with the maniac who's on top of me trying to stab me. Like, what the?
I know.
It was so bad.
And then they die on top of each other, like going, like just saying, like, "Oh, they're conjoined again." Oh yeah, okay. Just beat the dead horse to death even more.
Yeah, dude, when the bodies fall and like the face is perfectly in the back, I'm like, oh my God. I waited an hour and a half to see that.
Yeah.
Come on.
And it really took a long time to actually get there. We spent way too much with the teenage characters having, they're playing 2000s music, just like, it really, you're exactly right. This is a Warner Brothers cash in on Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and the direction was just give us that, like, filter and all. We spend just like kind of how I felt with the 03 one. You just spend way too much time building it up, and this one has the worst payoffs.
Yeah, it goes from like a really interesting mystery with like a really, really interesting plot twist in the originals to this is just Texas Chainsaw, Friday the 13th. How it's just one of those, like, you know what, it's like those Wrong Turn movies.
Yes.
Or The Hills Have Eyes, like, oh well, the road is under construction, guess we're gonna have to. Also, they're going to a football game. They just happen to bring these like 6-person tents and stuff to build a fire. Like, did they plan on this? Because
I want to know how the cops knew that the town was doing bad since the sugar mill closed down. But yet these kids somehow stumbled upon it, no problem. But nobody in that 10 years has ever checked to see how many people are dead in this town. Like, they filled up everything. There's got to be hundreds. Not one person has thought, maybe I'll find my family, because these look like regular people.
Yeah, no, and no one. And then that's another thing. They just casually mention it at the end when they're like, "How did you guys not know about this?" And they're like, when the interstate was built, no one came around anymore. The town's not even on the map anymore. Well, you knew it was here. I mean,
Yeah, you knew.
When you saw the smoke pluming in the sky, you weren't like, that must be trees. You're like, oh crap, that must be that town. Like,
Yeah.
what the hell?
It's only 10 years. Like, a town doesn't just disappear in 10 years. In the 2000s, it's not the 30s.
That's a good point too. 10 years pass, and it's like, ah, nope, that's it. Everyone's dead.
They just removed it from the map. Jesus Christ. Like, they knew that they fucked up and they had to, like, explain it away somehow.
Yeah, dude, it was, and that's what I mean. They just took every trope you could imagine, threw it into one film, and unfortunately just used the title House. I guarantee just Warner Brothers owns House of Wax. They're like, we need what these other guys are doing. What do we have in our catalog? Oh, we have House of Wax. Hasn't been made since the 50s. No one will know any better. Give us Texas. We'll throw House of Wax as the title, though. And that's what they did.
Yep. It's just a generic 2000s horror film, which is a real shame because the original two films actually, like we talked about even with the 50s one, like they had a gimmick in mind, Warner Brothers, but the director himself actually had the mindset to make a good film, and he did, because that one still holds up now 70 yees later.
Yeah, and it's interesting because when we first started this whole series, we had a discussion offline where you asked, do you think it's better for a director and a team to completely reimagine a film and put their own spin on it when they remake, or just do a shot for shot remake? And I think this is a perfect example of how you should do a remake and how you shouldn't, because the 53 one looked at the original, said this is almost a perfect film, concept, everything is great. There's one or two elements that don't make sense. We'll just get rid of those and make it more streamlined. Where the '05 one was like, let's make this a completely different movie. And I think the quality speaks for itself.
Yeah, I feel exactly the same way. The 50s one, they like, we got new technology. We have a good film. We can improve on it. There's actually people who wanted to actually improve on it. You have great people behind the camera, in front of the camera, and Vincent Price. In this movie, there's bad actors. And unfortunately, like the director seems to be like a pretty good director at this point. I wouldn't say obviously he's like a great director, but he seems like a capable one at least. Just out of the gate, just didn't do too well. The screenplay feels like they thought they were being clever while writing it when really they weren't.
Not at all. All the cleverness was used in the first two. And it almost seems like if this was that director's first one, I wonder if it's one of those like he was just a kid getting into directing and they threw him this script and he was like, I'll do this one because it'll get me in the door so I can do other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, not for some people are just career direct. That guy's directed it look like 12 to like 15 films in like only like 20 years. That means he's like a studio director where it's like we got a project, we're giving this to you to direct it. And he's probably like, cool, I'll make a lot of money. But he's not maybe a director who has like a vision, like what we talk about, like with like Tarantino or directors like that, where you watch and you go, that's his movie, or even Rob Zombie, that's a Rob Zombie movie. This guy's like, you know what? I'll give you guys what you want.
Yeah, and listen, can't knock him. He's making a career move. That's fine. He's making his money. But I don't think this is, to me, I mean, if we're all set here in order, I think the 1953 one is the best. Then I would honestly go 1933. And this '05 would be my least favorite of the trilogy here.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you on the exact same rankings. 53, 33, 05, just way in the back, left in a ditch somewhere.
Left in that ditch with the dummy hand and the deers.
Yep, exactly. And so that means on what would you label this? Would this be a win for the remake?
So that's the thing. Like it was, yeah, I guess technically it's a win for the remake because we do like the
The
re
remake.
because I think this is actually original. This one, and you mentioned it before, it's original versus remake versus reimagination.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. The third one is not really even a remake. It's really just a title.
Yeah.
There is a House of Wax, but I mean, these guys aren't artists. Let me just tell you, they're not artists. They don't have their Mary Antoinette.
Yeah, they sure don't. My God. So I think this would be maybe with a little star next to it because a lot of people probably haven't seen Mystery at the Wax Museum and probably didn't know because again, we didn't even know it existed. So technically it's a remake, but I'm sure a lot of people would view it as the original.
Yeah. So we'll do. We're gonna label this as a win for the remake, and then, like Dennis said, we'll put an asterisk. We'll bring it up as the series goes on. But this would be original 3, remake 1. We're gonna put a poll out though, so it'll be 3 films on it, and be interesting on the next original versus remake. We'll see who actually wins of the 3 and see what people think. My gut says that 53 will win, but again, we've been surprised before.
Yeah, that stepfather one really threw me for a loop, and I feel like a lot of the polls have. So it's always interesting just to see what the feedback is out there. So far, though, four in, and the only time we've had a divide was Dawn of the Dead. Everything else has been pretty much a landslide.
Yep. And we'll put a poll out for the next one. Me and Dennis haven't even really talked about it, so you'll see it probably within the next few. When this goes out, we put the poll out for the next one and the poll for you guys to vote on, so we have enough time because we gotta pick the movie and then we gotta actually go watch it.
Yeah, and in this case, find one to steal from a library somewhere.
Yep. So yeah, if that library is looking for your DVD copy of House of Wax, call me and I will give you Dennis's address. So all right, guys, thanks for being here with us on another original versus remake. We hope you guys enjoyed the show. If you did, like, share, and subscribe. Tell your friends about us.